talk about everything I read in the month of February. February was not a super productive reading month, but I read a bunch of books that I really enjoyed, and then I read some that were like, okay. So it was kind of like a middle of the road month, but really I'm not mad at it. I just didn't read a ton. I only read 5 books this month, but honestly, like, I'm okay with that because I do other things too. Sometimes I feel like we put too much pressure on ourselves to like read so much because it's like, I only read 5 books. Like, even me being like, I only read 5 books. That's a ton of fucking books, y'all. Like, so many people read 1 book a year, and that's fine. Or 1 book a month, and that's fine. We read a lot here on BookTube because it is a lot of us, like, our main hobby. But, like, I have other hobbies too. I have kids. I like to play video games. I like to watch movies. I work like 60 hours a week. Sometimes more, sometimes less. It just depends, especially because I have a regular day job and then I freelance and then, you know, I do this. So editing and making the videos, and like I'm putting out 5 videos a week. So that's a lot of work in and of itself. On top of the fact that I have kids and I have to cook for them and like sports and school and all that. But I still managed to read 5 books. I was really happy with it. 3 of them were actually e-arcs from NetGalley. 2 were actually from my physical owned books, which I think is pretty good. I did DNF 1 book, so it would have been 6, but we had a DNF this month, which is fine. I would much rather DNF than continue on if I'm not loving it. My DNF this month was Wildcat, which was our self-published pick for the Shelf Published In book club. And while it wasn't bad, it just wasn't for me. And I've said before, sometimes I have a really hard time getting into things that are very like Viking-esque and Norse mythology, and that was kind of the problem for me, is I just was not vibing with the characters. I was not feeling the world there. It was just too Viking-esque and I just couldn't get into it. There was just like a couple things that I was just like, this is just, it's not for me. But so many of the other people that were in there loved it. I know Leslie from The Nerdy Narrative loved it, and Kayla from Crack Into a Good Book, she really enjoyed it. She read the whole series and really loved it. So I still recommend you go try it out for yourself, especially because it's on Kindle Unlimited. And even if you don't like it and DNF it, reading on Kindle Unlimited helps the author, even if you DNF, because they're paid royalties per like page, I believe is what somebody told me. And so even like reading to a certain percentage, like they get a percentage of royalties just because you read it, and you're not wasting your money buying something. It's on Kindle Unlimited. So like you're just paying the monthly fee. It's a win-win-win all the way around. So try it out if you still want to, but just keep in mind it wasn't for me. It's very, very Norse mythology, Viking. Next, I read Lost in the Neverwood by Aiden Thomas, and this was a NetGalley e-arc that sadly was also not really for me. I filmed an entire review that should be up this week as well. This will probably come out first, but keep an eye out for the review of Lost in the Neverwood. It wasn't bad. It was a 3-star read for me, which is still good. That is not a bad book by any means. Obviously, I didn't DNF it. I continued on to the end. There were just a lot of aspects about it that I didn't love. I didn't love specifically the parents in this book, and I also was a little put off by the romance. It just felt cringy to me, and there were just a lot of elements where I wanted this like fresh take on a Peter Pan retelling, and it was very boilerplate Peter Pan retelling. I have not read Aiden Thomas's other book, Cemetery Boys, but I am very excited to read that eventually because I liked the writing style. I thought Aiden Thomas's writing was really, really good, and I really loved that. I just didn't vibe with the story so much, but I can definitely see why a lot of people will really enjoy this. The next one I read is also an ARC, and that is Sweet and Bitter Magic. And again, this was a 3-star book. It was good. It just didn't wow me. And this one might be a little higher on the 3-star, but it still was good. It just wasn't for me. It didn't wow me. And I really did like the main characters though. The 2 girls. We have a witch who has been kind of cast out of her coven, and then a source who is someone that can sense magic and like hone magic but cannot use magic. And they kind of go on this quest to save the world from this curse, and it is a enemies to lovers sapphic romance, which I liked that aspect. The romance was good. I enjoyed the enemies to lovers aspect. There were some things that didn't make sense within the continuity of the story to me, because the cursed witch who's been kicked out of her coven, allegedly, she has no feelings. Like, that is her curse. She can't feel. She can't see color. She can't feel like happiness, but she also can't feel sadness. Like, she has no emotion, basically. And there's moments in the story where you're like, well, if you couldn't feel, then like what you said here makes no sense. But it's like you can still feel grief, but like not really. Like, it was like a whole, like, I understand that being really, really difficult to write though. And there's parts of it that it's like, okay, well, maybe she's starting to feel because of her proximity to the girl who she's developing feelings for and pushing through and kind of breaking the curse on her own. But then it's like, no, not really. And it's just kind of contradictory in that way. But I still enjoyed the magic. I still liked the story. I really liked how magic in this world has consequences. Y'all know, if you've been watching me, that is one thing that I absolutely love, is when magic has consequences. You can't just like use it willy-nilly. Like, you use your magic and it causes you physical pain, or there's some sacrifice that needs to be made. And I appreciate that in books. And this book did show, you know, magic comes at a cost. So I really appreciated that. And I believe this is the first book in a series. I would debate reading book 2. I'm not like going out jumping for joy like I need book 2 right now, but I wouldn't say no to reading book 2. And then another 3-star book that I read is Red Rising. This is probably my favorite of the 3 stars that I read. So I was kind of torn between giving it a 3 and a 4. I liked it. I didn't love it. But I'm excited to continue on with Golden Sun in March because of like the read along that we're doing with Alan from the Library of Alexandria. And I heard that this is the weakest entry in the series. It was like the debut. That's the very first book. Obviously a lot of, you know, getting to know everything. But I really felt like this was the Hunger Games in space. And it's just the similarities between this book and the Hunger Games were a little on the head. They were very obvious. The song, the hanging, kids in a brutal murder competition, people watching from above like it's a game, giving them like prizes basically. And it's just very Hunger Gamesy, which I didn't hate. But it was very striking. Like, that is just something I really noticed throughout the book. But I really enjoyed Darrow's character growth. I thought that he made a lot of growth within this book. I really enjoyed him, even though he was probably my least favorite character, and he's our main character. My favorites were Severo and Mustang. I loved Severo and Mustang. Like, I just want to read a whole book of Severo because he just... there's more there, and I'm excited to find out more about him because he was just my absolute favorite character. And then Mustang was a really good kind of counterpart, I felt, to Darrow. Like, she's obviously a gold and, you know, raised in this very specific way, but she has so much empathy that you don't typically see among her class, and that really endeared me to her. So I'm excited to see her character kind of going forward, along with what happens with Darrow after the end of this, because I think once we're out of this like school setting kind of thing, it'll move away from being the Hunger Games on Mars and like really come into its own. And I'm really excited to see that kind of come to fruition. Now, the next 2 books I read were both 5-star books. So it goes from like, okay, to, oh my God. So like I said, I'm not mad at February. Like, I had a good month and read some great books. My first 5-star book that I want to talk about is Black Sun by Rebecca Roanhorse. This was the Shelf Space Book Club pick for the month, and I am so happy because I loved this book. We are dealing with 3 different like character perspectives, and I loved all 3 characters. I loved all 3 perspectives. I especially loved, I think Zila is how you say her name. She is a teak sailor. Basically, she's a mermaid in this world, and I absolutely love her character. And then Serapio is like this god reborn, and he is blind, and he was blinded by his mother as a child, and he is on this quest to take down the Sun Priest, who is like his sworn enemy. And then we follow the Sun Priest, who is this girl that really shouldn't be in the position that she's in. She came from what they call dry earth, like very low class, and she was supposed to be like a servant, and then she kind of like managed to rise her way up through the ranks. And there's so much in her storyline specifically that's like really cool political intrigue that I absolutely loved. And I loved seeing how, you know, we're following one character who's supposed to kill the other character, but it's like you like both of them. So like you don't know who you want to win. Like you kind of want them to be like join forces in a way. Like it's such a cool dynamic. And then you've just got like Zila thrown in there, and she's just the best. Like she is fantastic. She has so much agency, and I just love her character. Like she is no holds bar and just fantastic. And I loved this world. I thought it was really, really fun and really easy to just dive right in and just see this world. Like Rebecca Roanhorse wrote so vividly. Like I can just picture everything, and I just enjoyed it so much. Not to mention the gorgeous maps. Can we? I love a good map, and this book has quite the map. The ending was very cliffhanger-y. I will give it that. But I'm like hyped for book 2 now. Like I need this. Like when is it coming out? Like nobody knows. I'm not sure. Like this is a brand new book. Like I don't know when the second book's coming out, but I need it. I'm gonna need it. I'm gonna try to get an arc of it when it comes out because I loved it that much. Like it was fantastic. And yes, I'm holding this book upside down. I'm bad at this. And the final book that I gave 5 stars was also a NetGalley e-arc. This was my month of arcs, and that was The Bone Maker by Sarah Beth Durst, which I also did a full review on, so I won't go too much into detail. But in this book, it is a fantasy standalone, love that, where we follow these heroes who had saved the world 25 years before, but we're following them now as they're kind of older and aging, and they might have to save the world again. And it's just so good. I love following older characters. I love seeing what happens after the young heroes save the world. Like, what happens after? Because everyone had the same experience, but everyone ended up with different after effects and different experiences. Like, we have the one who went off to be a hermit. We have one that kind of just went off to, you know, start a family and lay low. We have one who like reveled in the just everything of it, the fame, and use that to make money and just like rise up through society. We have one who died, and then we have one who kind of went crazy, and it's just so good to see. And it's like you explore their friendship because it's like none of them had like seen each other or spoken to each other in like 25 years, and they pick up where they left off. And I just loved all the inner relationships. The magic is super cool. It's like bone magic, and there's like 3 different types of bone magic that you can do. And it's just amazing. I highly recommend you picking this up when it comes out. It is out in March on the 9th, I believe. So I highly, highly recommend it. And now I'm even more excited to pick up more of Sarah Beth Dar's books. I really want to get to, I think it's Promise of Blood, Queens of Renthia, I think is the name of the series. I want it now. All right, well, that is everything that I read in the month of February. Like I said, it was not a like big reading month, but I ain't mad at it. I had a good time, and you know, I think that 5 books is perfectly a lot and acceptable. Well, thank you guys for hanging out. My name is Jessie, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.